My wife's viral TikTok accused me of 27 toxic traits and ruined my reputation, until my revenge video exposed the truth and ended her fame forever. It was unusual for a Wednesday afternoon. I ignored it until the meeting ended, then checked to find dozens of messages from friends asking if I was okay. Strange. What could have happened? That's when I saw it, a link to my wife's TikTok account, an account I barely knew existed. The video had already amassed over 50,000 views in just 3 hours. The thumbnail showed her sitting in our living room, a place I bought and furnished through years of hard work, with a smug expression and the caption, "My husband's 27 toxic traits exposed." I felt my stomach drop right there in the middle of the restaurant. I watched as she listed off alleged toxic traits to her growing audience. He expects dinner when he gets home. He gets quiet when he's angry instead of talking. He doesn't like my male friends texting me at 2 a.m., each point more ridiculous than the last, twisted into something sinister. The comment section overflowed with strangers calling me a monster, a controlling freak, a walking red flag. People who'd never met me, never spent a single minute in my presence, diagnosing me as a narcissist and telling my wife to leave before it was too late. A text from a coworker, "Dude, isn't that your living room? Your wife is going viral for dragging you." I paid my bill and drove home in silence. The logical reaction would have been confrontation, demanding she take down the video, shouting, making a scene. That's exactly what she wanted. Content for part 2, confirmation of her claims that I was emotionally volatile. Instead, I walked into our house and greeted her with a kiss on the cheek as if I'd seen nothing. Her momentary confusion told me everything. She'd expected drama, tears, begging, something to capture on her phone for more views. When I asked about her day with genuine interest, she fumbled for words. "Just boring stuff," she replied quickly, hiding her phone screen. "How was your meeting?" "Productive," I answered, maintaining eye contact until she looked away first. That night, after she fell asleep, I re-watched the video 3 more times. It wasn't just the betrayal of privacy that cut deep. It was the calculated performance, the exaggerated eye rolls, that just between us girls conspiratorial tone as she mocked 5 years of marriage for social media dopamine hits. The comment section had grown to thousands. Someone had tagged my company. Another claimed to be a former girlfriend confirming her accusations. Complete fabrication. I'd only had 2 serious relationships before marriage. I didn't sleep. Instead, I formulated a plan, not an emotional reaction, but a strategic response, something measured, factual, and devastating in its simplicity. My wife had always underestimated my patience, my attention to detail, my capacity for calculated action rather than reaction. By morning, I made my decision. I wouldn't beg her to remove the video. I wouldn't show her how deeply it wounded me. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of knowing she'd gotten under my skin. No, I would do something far more effective. I would let her believe she'd won. Let her enjoy her 15 minutes of viral fame. Let her dig the hole deeper, all while I gathered everything I needed for one single video response that would change everything. She wanted to play games with our marriage on social media. Fine, but she'd forgotten something crucial about me. I don't play to participate, I play to win. The next morning at work was excruciating. Conversations stopped when I entered rooms. Co-workers avoided eye contact. My boss called me into his office. Not for discipline, but worse, pity. He awkwardly mentioned that personal matters should stay at home while assuring me my job wasn't at risk. Yet, the video had crossed 200,000 views overnight. My wife texted throughout the day with unusual affection, asking when I'd be home, what I wanted for dinner, a performance for whoever might be watching her phone. I played along, responding with normal enthusiasm while my reputation crumbled in real time. That evening, she filmed herself cooking dinner, something she hadn't done in months. The caption later read, "Trying to do something nice for hubby despite his toxic traits." The comments flooded with praise for her strength and compassion. The performance was flawless. I watched silently from the doorway as she positioned her phone, practiced sad expressions, then hit record. Between takes, her face returned to neutral, calculating. Once she noticed me, the act resumed instantly, the caring wife, the victim of my supposed emotional neglect. "You're home early," she said, quickly pocketing her phone. "Thought I'd help with dinner," I replied, rolling up my sleeves. I caught her momentary disappointment. I disrupted her narrative by being helpful. That night after dinner, I began my counter-offensive. While she showered, I established a private email account and documented the day's events with clinical precision, times, dates, behaviors, contradictions between her public claims and private actions. I set up a discreet audio recorder in the living room. Our state's laws required only one-party consent. For the next 2 weeks, I became a researcher studying my own collapsing marriage. When she claimed in her follow-up video that I controlled the finances and gave her an allowance, I documented our joint accounts and her unrestricted spending. When she tearfully described how I isolated her from friends, I noted her daily brunches and girls' nights that I encouraged and often funded. The evidence accumulated. Her TikTok following grew to 50,000. Comments suggested she start charging for relationship advice. One morning, she received flowers from a supporter who found our address. Instead of being alarmed by this invasion of privacy, she filmed an unboxing reaction. At work, HR called me in. "We've received concerns," they said carefully. Translation: people were uncomfortable working with the abusive husband from TikTok. I nodded and thanked them for their transparency, my external calm masking internal fury. That weekend, we attended a friend's birthday dinner. The tension was palpable. These were mutual friends who'd watched her videos but were too uncomfortable to address the elephant in the room. One woman pulled me aside, voice lowered. "Is everything okay at home?" she asked, eyes filled with suspicion rather than genuine concern. "Never better," I answered with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Why do you ask?" She fumbled with her wine glass. "No reason, just checking in." Across the room, my wife held court, phone in hand, undoubtedly gathering material for her next viral moment. Our friends laughed too loudly at her jokes, eyes darting nervously in my direction. I'd become the villain in my own social circle without speaking a word. That night, she posted another video, had to bring him to a social event, and the tension was unbearable. 500,000 views by morning. I added it to my evidence file, then wrote a single-sentence email to a divorce attorney I'd researched. "I need a consultation as soon as possible." The response came within an hour. Monday, 8 a.m. I confirmed the appointment, then deleted the exchange from my browsing history. That Sunday, my wife suggested a couple's photo shoot for social media. "People are asking to see more of us together," she explained innocently. Translation: her followers wanted to scrutinize me, the toxic husband, in real time. "Sounds perfect," I replied, already planning how this too would fit into my response. The trap she thought she was setting was becoming the foundation of my escape. Monday morning arrived with unexpected developments. A local podcast had contacted my wife to discuss toxic relationship dynamics. She announced this over breakfast, watching my face for a reaction. I simply nodded and asked what time, offering to adjust my schedule if she needed the car. Her momentary confusion was worth the continued charade. "You don't mind?" she asked, stirring her coffee. "Why would I?" "It sounds like a great opportunity," I replied, maintaining eye contact until she looked away. The podcast appearance streamed live that afternoon. I watched from my office as she recounted exaggerated stories of our relationship, each anecdote twisted to cast her as the long-suffering partner. The hosts ate it up, interrupting with gasps at appropriate moments. The comment section called her brave. Someone suggested she write a book. That evening, she returned home energized by her new celebrity status. Her phone constantly chimed with notifications. Brands had begun reaching out for sponsorship opportunities, wellness products, therapy apps, self-help books. The victim narrative was becoming lucrative. "They want me back next week," she announced over dinner. "They're doing a series on recognizing emotional abuse." "Congratulations," I said, raising my glass in a toast. "I'm proud of you." The look of disappointment that flashed across her face confirmed what I'd suspected. My measured support was denying her the conflict she craved for content. She needed me angry, defensive, or begging, anything to validate her portrayal of me. Later that week, the first cracks in her facade appeared. While she maintained her victim persona online, at home, she grew increasingly reckless with the truth. She left her phone unlocked while showering, almost an invitation to snoop. I took the opportunity not to read messages but to transfer evidence, screenshots of her admitting to friends that she was embellishing, for views and giving people what they want to hear. By the third week, her TikTok following had surpassed 100,000. The original 27 Toxic Traits video had been featured on a major women's website as an example of recognizing and exposing harmful relationship patterns. My name wasn't mentioned, but our city and my profession were. Colleagues from other branches had begun connecting the dots. The breaking point came unexpectedly. Thursday evening, I arrived home early to find her filming in our bedroom, wearing my clothes, mimicking what she called my controlling behaviors through exaggerated gestures and a deepened voice. The comments rolled in real time. "Leave him. You deserve better. This is literally my ex. I stood in the doorway, silent, until she noticed me and jumped. The phone clattered to the floor, still recording. "How long have you been standing there?" she asked, voice tight. "Long enough," I replied, then turned and walked downstairs without another word. She followed minutes later, phone conveniently recording in her pocket. I could see the red light through the fabric. Time for the confrontation I'd been avoiding, but now needed to document. "So, you've seen the videos," she said, a statement rather than a question. "I've seen everything," I confirmed, keeping my voice neutral. "The TikToks, the podcast, the sponsorship offers, all of it. And you waited until now to say something." A note of accusation, trying to shift blame for my silence. "I was curious how far you'd go," I said simply. "How much of our privacy you'd sacrifice for views." "It's not about views," she countered, voice rising defensively. "It's about raising awareness, helping other women recognize toxic patterns. By inventing them in your own relationship." Her eyes narrowed. "I haven't invented anything. Everything I've shared is how I feel. Feelings packaged as facts," I observed. "Convenient." "It's exactly the gaslighting I've been talking about," she snapped, pulling out her phone openly now. "You're trying to make me question my own experiences." I smiled, not unkindly. "Are we having a conversation, or are you creating content right now?" The question landed like a slap. She lowered the phone slightly, but didn't stop recording. "This is my career now," she said. "Finally. People connect with my story. Brands are interested. I've had more opportunities in the past month than in years. Built on lies about me. Built on my truth," she corrected. "If you can't support that, then maybe you really are as toxic as they think." There it was, the ultimatum wrapped in manipulation. Support her fabricated narrative about me or prove her right by objecting. A perfect lose-lose scenario. I nodded slowly as if considering her perspective. "You've given me a lot to think about." That night I slept in the guest room. She posted a tearful update. He finally saw the videos and his reaction confirmed everything. 500,000 views by morning and a second podcast invitation. I sent a single text to my attorney: "We need to accelerate the timeline." Then I began preparing the only response that mattered, the one that would end this charade permanently. The next morning, I executed the first phase of my plan. I took a personal day from work, the first in over 2 years. My reputation there was already compromised. A day's absence wouldn't make it worse. I met with my attorney at 8, laying out everything: the videos, the public humiliation, the professional consequences. "This is defamation," he said flatly after reviewing my evidence. "Clear and documented. The fact she's profiting makes it worse for her." "I don't want money," I clarified. "I want a clean break, and the record corrected." We spent 3 hours outlining the divorce strategy. The evidence I gathered would remain private for now, leverage, not immediate ammunition. The papers would be ready in 2 days. In the meantime, I had one last task: creating my response video. I returned home while my wife was at her second podcast appearance. The house felt foreign now, like a reality TV set rather than a home. I went to the guest room that had become my temporary sanctuary and began organizing the material I'd collected over the past weeks. The video needed to be perfect, factual, controlled, and devastating in its simplicity. I wouldn't match her emotional appeals or subjective claims. I would present evidence, then let viewers draw their own conclusions. The truth presented plainly would be more damaging than any accusation. First, I edited together clips from her videos highlighting specific claims. I controlled the finances. I isolated her from friends. I criticized her appearance. I monitored her location. Then the counter-evidence. Screenshots of her shopping sprees from our joint account, security footage from our smart doorbell showing her friends visiting daily, text messages of me complimenting her consistently, location sharing that she had initiated and could disable any time. Most damning were the recordings of her admitting to friends that she was exaggerating for views, laughing about how gullible her followers were, workshopping new toxic traits to attribute to me when she ran out of authentic grievances. The final segment was the hardest to edit. Clips from our recent confrontation captured by her own phone that she'd left recording on the table. Her voice clear as day: "This is my career now. People connect with my story. My response, built on lies about me." Her damning reply: "If you don't support my truth, you really are toxic." I added no commentary, no emotional appeals, just a closing statement: after 5 years of marriage, this is how my wife chose to handle marital problems. Not through communication, not through counseling, but by creating a false narrative for profit and attention. The divorce papers have been filed. This is my only response. 3 minutes and 42 seconds total. Brief, factual, irrefutable. I created a new account under my own name. No clever username, no attempt at anonymity. I would stand behind every word, every piece of evidence. The thumbnail would be simple: my wedding ring on a document, the divorce papers. While finalizing the edit, I received a text from a friend, the first real communication from my social circle in weeks. Just heard your wife on the podcast. Man, I had no idea things were so bad. Why didn't you tell someone? I didn't respond. Soon enough, they'd understand. My wife returned home that evening elated. The podcast host had suggested a recurring segment. A publication wanted an interview. A women's advocacy group had reached out about speaking at their conference. They want me to expand on the traits, she announced while ordering takeout. Cooking had apparently been abandoned now that her online persona was established. Maybe turn it into a series. Signs you're with a toxic partner. People eat that content up. You seem to have found your calling, I observed. No trace of sarcasm in my voice. Finally, right? After all those dead-end jobs. She scrolled through her phone, already planning the next installment. The best part is, I can work from home, set my own hours. Convenient, I agreed. Then excused myself to the guest room. That night, I finalized the video and prepared it for upload. The divorce papers would arrive tomorrow. The video would follow immediately after serving them. Everything timed for maximum impact and minimum warning. Before sleeping, I transferred half our savings to a new separate account. Fair, but protecting my assets. I backed up all evidence to secure cloud storage. I messaged my boss requesting a private meeting tomorrow afternoon to discuss personal matters affecting my professional reputation. Morning would bring the beginning of the end, not with a dramatic confrontation or public scene, but with the methodical execution of justice. She had weaponized social media against me. I would use it to reveal the truth, then walk away from both the platform and a marriage with my dignity intact. The divorce papers arrived at precisely 9:30 a.m. I was already at work, having left earlier than usual. My attorney had arranged for the server to record the delivery, a small detail that would prove important later. At 10:15, my phone vibrated with a string of increasingly frantic messages. What the hell is this? Call me right now. You can't be serious. Answer your phone. I silenced the notifications and continued my meeting with HR and my supervisor, calmly explaining the situation, showing select evidence, and assuring them that resolution was imminent. Their expressions shifted from concern to understanding. My reputation wasn't fully restored, but the damage was contained. At exactly noon, time for maximum viewership, I uploaded my response video from my office. No announcement, no warning, just the truth presented without commentary or emotional appeal. The title: Response to 27 Toxic Traits, the full story. I sent a single text to my wife. I've said everything I need to say, with a link to the video. Then I silenced my phone completely and focused on work for the next 3 hours. What happened online during that time exceeded even my most optimistic projections. The video hit 10,000 views in 15 minutes, 50,000 in 30. By the time I checked at the end of my workday, it had crossed 300,000 and was accelerating. The comment section told the story. Wait, she admitted to making this up for views. The receipts in this video are damning. I feel sick for judging this man without hearing his side. Someone check on her podcast host right now. My phone had 47 missed calls and over 200 text messages. From my wife, from friends, from numbers I didn't recognize, journalists perhaps, or content creators smelling a trending story. I ignored them all and drove to the hotel where I'd reserved a room that morning. The front desk clerk glanced at me with recognition. She'd seen the video. Her quiet, "I'm sorry that happened to you," was the first genuine sympathy I'd received in weeks. Once settled in my room, I finally reviewed the fallout. My video had been shared by multiple large accounts focusing on relationship ethics and online accountability. Several commenters identified themselves as sponsors who had approached my wife and were now publicly withdrawing their offers. The podcast that had featured her twice released an emergency statement. We're investigating recent allegations regarding a guest, and we'll address this situation in our next episode. Translation: damage control. Most significantly, my wife's original video and subsequent content were hemorrhaging support. The comment sections had transformed from validation to questioning, from blind support to critical examination. The tide had turned with breathtaking speed. At 8:45 p.m., I received a text from a mutual friend. "She's melting down on live stream right now. It's bad." I didn't watch. Instead, I ordered room service, opened my laptop, and began the process of rebuilding my digital presence: new email addresses, updated privacy settings, professional social accounts with no connection to the controversy. My phone continued its silent vibration through dinner. Eventually, curiosity won out. I checked a single message from the same friend. "She tried to deny everything, got called out with timestamps from your video, ended the stream crying and threatening to sue you." Comments are not on her side. Justice had a certain efficiency in the digital age. The same virality that had destroyed my reputation was now restoring it and dismantling hers. At 11:30 p.m., I received a message that gave me pause. "Please come home. We need to talk. I can explain everything." For a brief moment, I felt the pull of 5 years of history, of the person I'd once believed she was. Then I remembered her calculated performances, the monetization of my supposed flaws, the casual destruction of my character for content. I replied with the only appropriate response: "All communication through our attorneys from now on." She tried 3 more times that night, each message more desperate than the last, promises to retract everything, claims that she'd been influenced by toxic online communities, reminders of good times, of inside jokes, of the life we built. At 3 a.m. came the final message, a single line that confirmed I'd made the right decision. "I'll tell everyone you abused me if you don't come back." I forwarded it to my attorney with one instruction: add this to the file. Then I blocked her number. By morning, my video had reached 1 million views. Hers had been taken down by her or the platform. I neither knew nor cared. The podcast canceled her recurring segment. The women's advocacy group publicly distanced themselves. The brands withdrew their offers. My single measured response had accomplished what no emotional outburst could have. It had revealed the truth through clear evidence, letting viewers reach their own conclusions about who the toxic partner truly was. As I checked out of the hotel to move into a temporary apartment, the front desk clerk handed me a note that had been left earlier. I saw both videos. "For what it's worth, you handled yourself with dignity. Not many would have that strength." It wasn't signed, but it was the first moment I felt something other than controlled anger, a small seed of vindication. 2 weeks after my video response, the digital landscape had settled into a new reality. My single statement had been viewed over 5 million times, been featured on multiple commentary channels, and sparked discussions about relationship content ethics across social media platforms. I declined all interview requests, podcast appearances, and opportunities to tell my side beyond what I'd already shared. The evidence spoke for itself. My wife, meanwhile, had entered what crisis management professionals call the extinction burst phase. After her initial meltdown livestream, she'd attempted multiple strategies to salvage her reputation. First came the tearful apology video, which commenters immediately identified as performative. Next, accusations that my evidence was manipulated, claims quickly debunked by tech-savvy viewers who verified the timestamps and metadata. Then the concerning escalation. She showed up at my workplace, causing a scene that required security intervention. She sent mutual friends to reason with me, her mother called, pleading for reconciliation. When these approaches failed, she tried a final desperate tactic. She created a new account claiming to be an abuse survivor advocate analyzing manipulative men who twist situations. The internet, having witnessed the entire saga unfold, recognized her immediately. The account lasted less than 8 hours before mass reporting shut it down. My attorney called with an update on the divorce proceedings. "She's contesting everything, which isn't surprising," he explained. "But given the evidence and her public behavior, I'm confident about our position. She's also demanding the removal of your video as part of the settlement." "That's not happening," I replied firmly. "I anticipated that response," he said, a smile in his voice. "The judge will likely view her request as an attempt to suppress evidence relevant to her credibility. We're in a strong position." My professional life had begun its slow recovery. Colleagues who'd avoided me now stopped by my office to check in. My boss approved a project I proposed months earlier. Clients who had requested different account managers quietly returned to my portfolio. The most unexpected development came from an industry conference I'd attended annually for years. The organizers, who had initially considered rescinding my invitation after the original viral video, now asked if I would participate in a panel on digital ethics and online harassment. I declined politely. This chapter of my life wasn't becoming my identity or career. 10 days later, I received notification that my wife had withdrawn her contest to the divorce terms. My attorney confirmed she'd accepted the original proposal, and even split of assets, no alimony, a clean break with minimal interaction. The only remaining point of negotiation was her continued insistence that I remove my response video. She claims it's causing her ongoing harassment, my attorney explained. There's some validity there from a legal standpoint, but given that your video contains no calls to action against her and merely presents factual evidence, we maintain it's protected speech. It stays up, I confirmed. The consequences of her actions aren't my responsibility to manage. The final paperwork arrived on a Thursday afternoon. As I signed the documents, officially ending my marriage, I felt neither triumph nor despair, just the quiet certainty of having stood my ground with dignity. That evening, my phone displayed a notification I'd never expected to see, a direct message from my soon-to-be ex-wife's original podcast host. I've been wrestling with whether to reach out, it began. We've faced significant backlash for platforming your wife without verification. I wanted to personally apologize for our role in amplifying claims that caused you harm. We're implementing new guest vetting procedures as a result. I appreciated the accountability but didn't respond. Engaging further served no purpose. 3 months after that fateful Wednesday when I'd first discovered the 27 toxic traits video, the divorce was finalized. The document arrived without ceremony, just legal confirmation of what had already ended when trust was sacrificed for views. My ex-wife's online presence had dwindled to near invisibility. Her TikTok account, once approaching 200,000 followers, now sat abandoned at under 15,000. The podcast appearances, brand deals, and speaking opportunities had evaporated. According to mutual friends, she'd moved back to her hometown and taken a job similar to the one she'd held before her brief viral fame. As for me, I declined multiple offers to monetize my experience. No book deals, no speaking circuits, no interview exclusives. The temptation to capitalize on the situation the way she had was present but easily dismissed. Taking that path would make me no different from her, someone willing to trade privacy and dignity for attention. Instead, I focused on rebuilding, new apartment, reconnection with friends who'd reached out with genuine remorse for believing the worst without evidence. A promotion at work that had been delayed during the controversy. My response video remains online, not out of vindictiveness, but as a record of truth. I neither promote nor hide from it. It exists as a testament to a simple principle. When faced with public humiliation, responding with calm evidence rather than matching emotional fire is not just effective, it's the only approach that preserves your dignity. The final message came 6 months after the divorce, forwarded by my attorney. She was moving across the country, starting fresh, and wanted to express regret for her actions. The note ended with a question: would I consider finally taking down the video now that we've both moved on? My response was simple. The video stays up for exactly as long as it took you to admit the truth, 27 days for 27 traits. After that, I'll remove it voluntarily. She accepted immediately. On day 27, true to my word, I removed the video. Not because she deserved the gesture, but because I deserved to close this chapter completely. The internet had moved on to new controversies, new viral moments, new relationship dramas to dissect. But somewhere I hope someone learned from my experience that when your character is attacked in public, the most powerful response isn't matching fire with fire. It's standing firmly in your truth and letting evidence speak louder than accusations. The truth doesn't need embellishment, emotional appeals, or viral gimmicks. Sometimes a single measured response is all it takes to cancel the noise. Our story has come to an end. If you've made it this far, how about subscribing to our channel? It helps us immensely. I've selected 2 other videos for you that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Feel free to click on them. I'll be waiting for you in the next story. See you soon.